Welcome back to Live With. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we're here with a very special guest, our 2021 IFBB Chicago Pro Champion heading back to the Olympia. The man I'm talking about is Hunter Labrada.
Hey Dave, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, and at the office, I assume, right?
Yeah, man, sitting here at the office in our second-story conference room, which overlooks my office here.
Now, you didn't have this last year, huh? This is your own gym now you got, huh?
Yeah, no, sir. So Labrada just recently completed making our move to our new building. We were very fortunate to be able to buy both the land and the building and kind of build it through spec. So under one roof now, we have our corporate headquarters with our whole staff, all of our management, everything, conference rooms, whole 9 yards. We have our warehouse, and then we have the gym that we built. And, the gym, if anyone's been keeping up with me, we've done quite a bit of content around it, but, boil it down in like a minute or less. The gym's 5,000 square feet of hand-picked equipment. There's nothing in there because we got a deal on a package deal. There's nothing in there because, we just needed to fill this. Every single piece in there was hand-picked. Every single piece in there gets used regularly. It's all, old Cybex, Strive, Prime, Arsenal, Elite FTS racks and benches. It is the most perfect training environment I could possibly create for myself and the people I train with. So it's been incredible, man. It's been a huge blessing.
It's funny because when I asked you before, I said, oh, I didn't know you said, yeah, I handpicked all the machines and I gave a list to Lee, obviously your father, Lee Labrada, and he just stocked it with whatever I wanted. I mean, that's almost like better than having the greatest Christmas gift of all time, right?
No, yeah, for sure. And, it's one of those things we were able to really leverage it just because, we're at the point where I'm at now. The equipment manufacturers wanted the equipment in here. So, between, Lee and I, we were able to get quite a deal on everything. So we really appreciate all the partners that we had in making the gym. But, yeah, like I said, it's been like 8 to 10 months in the making. When we sat down, we were like, we want to create, the best gym around. And, it wouldn't be able to hold a commercial load of people, right? Obviously, but for, 4 people, 5 people or under to be training in there isn't a better gym in my opinion. Right. There's gyms that are just as good, but, it's my baby at this point. I'm proud of it for sure.
Do you have friends of yours calling you up and saying, hey, can I come for a workout?
Yeah, so it's definitely been everyone and their mother coming out of the woodwork asking to come train, and people for the most part were pretty understanding that there's not a snowball's chance in hell it was going to happen whenever
you're not
Liz, Brian, or I were close to the show. No one's going to be there, but now that the show's ended, I've had a bunch of friends hit me. I was like, yo, now that you're done, can I come through? And I'm like, yeah, man, come on.
You know what you got to do? I'm going to give you a great idea because I'm a creative guy, but you got to get that guy. I don't want to butcher his name. I forget his name. From Australia, the guy who comes and he paints the whole wall.
Meat-X. Yeah, he's Meat-X. He's incredible.
You got to get him over to your place and have him put a huge mural of you and your dad on the wall.
I've been talking to Lee about that, actually. I really want to get him to do one with Lee hitting his signature pose and hitting my side tricep or something.
Absolutely. You have to do that. I mean, because that wall is too blank over there. And you own the building, so you might as well do it,
I'm going to play this back to him because I've been trying to get a bunch of flags and big shit up on the walls for a while now. So
paint the whole wall. Paint the whole wall. You can put the Labrada symbol above you both, just so you got everything, all the branding that you possibly need.
Exactly.
So, because if I was doing the interview now, and imagine if that was back there right now, what a backdrop that would be to this interview.
Telling you. You're giving me some ammo to fire, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right, good. No problem. I'll talk to your dad about it. Let's talk about the show because obviously leading into the show, first of all, what made you choose to do Chicago? Because a lot of people would have said, hey, why don't you just go back to Tampa? You had great luck there last year.
So the best way to tell you why I decided to do Chicago is because I thought the Olympia was going to be at the same time as it was last year.
Okay. Gotcha.
I picked my show based off thinking the Olympia was going to be in December.
Right.
So I knew after the Olympia, my main feedback was you need more size on your entire posterior chain. Size takes time. So I needed to have enough time to have at least a 2 or 3 month off season where the focus really was, caloric surplus, adding tissue. And then, coming down for a show. So the earliest I felt like we could accomplish both the improvements we need to make and not allow enough time to get ready for a show,
right,
and not have my body just tapped out was Chicago. So, obviously the Olympia is in October, not December. So that changed the time frame quite a bit. It went from, finishing Chicago and then having 20 weeks to finishing Chicago and having 9 weeks and 5 days. So that being said, it's a very similar time frame that I had last year whenever New York got pushed back, and I was so lean right before I got pushed back. And,
right.
I feel like my body responded really well to that. So I've never really pushed a rebound like completely hard after a show. I've always been one to, give myself time to, relax and let my internal health recover. But, right now being this close to the O, everything, we're just, getting right back to it. And, I think we're going to be able to pick up some really good size from that and, present an improved package again at the Olympia, which is only, 2.5 months. So
yeah,
pretty stoked on that.
Now, looking as good as you did, and I think it was a pretty clear-cut victory here. I don't think anyone was close to you in that sense. Do you have obviously the Arnold Classic is in September, and it wouldn't be a very hard second show to do, obviously. You're young, your body is resilient, you're in good shape. Did that ever cross your mind? Hey, maybe I'll jump in the Arnold too.
Dave, to be honest with you, no, it didn't. There's a small part of me that's yeah, it'd be cool to do. But up until this point, I have made a career based off of making very calculated decisions that were made months in advance. Even the first amateur show I did, I trained 5 years for it and then didn't go to nationals for 2 years after. I took my time doing everything. Yeah. And, for an Arnold Classic, if I were to do the Arnold, in my opinion, it would, mentally, I wasn't 20 weeks ago. It's I'm doing the Arnold Classic. Sure. And that's a big deal for me. I don't know how much of a difference it makes to other people, but it makes a difference for me. And then B, I don't want it to be one of those things where it's I end up looking, 90% of the Arnold and 90% of the O instead of 100% of the Olympia.
Gotcha.
The first time that I do the Arnold, it will be one of those things that I, 8 months before said, I am doing the Arnold this year. I am training to win it. And that's what I'm doing this year.
Gotcha.
And not something I'm going to hop in, at a last second whim.
Might we see you in the March Arnold, possibly, of 2022?
There's a strong possibility you'll see me at the March Arnold in 2022.
Okay, good. Now, when you got up there on that stage and they did that first call out, initially it looked like they were comparing you and Rully Winkler. And obviously going into this show, you were certainly not the favorite. I would think Rully Winkler was, only because of his ranking at the Olympia level and all the history he had, which kind of took the pressure off you in a sense. But in the same sense, it probably kept the pressure on you because I know you're a perfectionist and you want to win every show you go into, obviously. What was it like when you got called out with him, and they were comparing the two of you?
Well, this show was interesting in that, the top dog changed so many times, if you will. When the show, first started, I say first started, whenever people first started their preps for your show, it was me, Sergio, Charles Griffin, right. And that was probably going to be your top three people favoring Sergio, and Akeem too.
Right.
And people are like, okay, that's going to be the four. They're going to duke it out. I wasn't the favorite out of that group.
Right.
Time goes on. Akeem becomes pretty apparent. He's going to do Puerto Rico, wins Puerto Rico. Serge announces he's going to focus just on the Arnold. And at that point, when I have those couple weeks there, maybe I'm considered the front runner at the show. But in the same breath, there's people like Brett Wilkin, Max Charles, and all those guys that are coming. So I don't really feel like there was ever a point that I was a front runner for this show at all, and especially once Rolly announced. Once Rolly announced, it was, who's getting second place on the internet. So
now you're up there on the stage with Rolly battling it out. Did you think at this point, I'm sure you'd seen him backstage. What was your feeling on stage? How did you feel in terms of hey, I could beat this guy, or you know what, this is going to be a battle. I better give my best here.
I'm one of the people that's, when I'm on stage, it's one of those things I'm focused so much on me and just hitting my poses and going through my checklists that I'm not even one to just, I've never even kind of been like this since I've never looked, Yeah. So I saw him backstage. He's freaky huge. Obviously his arms, fucking triceps just hanging everywhere. Yeah. So, and it's hard to tell without seeing someone under the lights, because like seeing him backstage, you're like, holy shit, he's huge. But, he looked not as tight as I've seen him in the past. But, it's like, you don't know until you get under the lights. And I don't know what he looks like under the lights. So because I don't look. So it's one of those things, we got called out together. But in my mind, it's like, okay, you better pose your ass off. Rolly Winkler's standing right next to you.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I always am amazed because, when I was on stage, I was pretty focused on myself too, but I'm always amazed with guys like Dexter, Lavroni, Wheeler. They're always they're like pointing at guys and they're hitting poses, like watching what the other guy's doing. I don't even know how they can do that. I'm a bad multitasker. Maybe that's all it is, but I was always focused on myself. It seems like you got your game plan, you play that game plan out, and you don't worry about anyone else,
Yeah. That's just, I always call it my peace of mind. I'm really big on keeping my peace of mind. And, people turn themselves into basket cases the last week, worrying about other people. There's no reason to worry about other people. Yeah. You are not showing up and running a race on the day of the show. You're not showing up and putting on gloves and fighting. All of the work is done. The only thing that's stressing out about someone else's going to do is make you look worse. And like I said, that peace of mind, for the past 16 weeks, I didn't miss a meal. I didn't miss a cardio session. I didn't miss a training session. Everything was literally as close to perfect as possible, meaning I am at my best. I cannot be better than my best. If I got beat by someone, it's because I am not better than them yet. That being said, I truly believe it's just a matter of time before no one can beat me in the same breath. So, it's just one of those things, keep your head down and work hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're making tremendous improvements. Obviously, you were about 248 at the Olympia last year. You came in at 256 at the night show in Chicago. That's 8 pounds of muscle. That's a lot of mass to put on in less than a year. Obviously, you're only 29 years old, so you're still growing. You're still improving. How much mass do you think your body can hold? I mean, because you have a very big structure.
Yeah, so I'm definitely my father's son in some regards, and then I'm definitely not my father's son in other regards. I am my father's son in the fact that I feel like my physique is going to live and die by the ability to keep my waist tight.
Right.
I'm not my father's son in the fact that, structurally, like not just muscles, obviously I weigh more than him, but structurally, I am a lot bigger than him, and I feel like my frame can handle a lot more weight. The best way for me to answer the question that you asked me, though, is I think my frame can handle another 15 pounds, but it remains to be seen how much my waist can handle before it starts to because the second I notice anything on my waist is when I'm going to back off.
Right.
My career is going to live and die by being able to keep my waist tight. So it's one of those things. We're going to push as hard as we can without, ruining my physique.
Yeah. I think, some people just have a genetic structure that just is not conducive to their waist getting big. I mean, Flex Wheeler's waist never got big. He put on an enormous amount of size from when he won that USA to his last pro show. So, and then other guys, for some reason, their waist just, gets bigger. Ronnie I think it has a lot to do just with genetics,
I think it has a lot to do with genetics for sure. And then honestly, I think, and people want to talk about all the insulin and the GH and this and that. And yes, I do feel like it plays a role in growing visceral fat. But I feel more so than anything in this day and age, a lot of people are spending, 6, 8, 9 months eating 2 pounds of food every 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
If you have your abdominal wall like a beach ball in it for 8 months out of the year, it's going to stretch the muscles out. It's going to distend.
I agree. And you know what? I think I did that to myself because my metabolism was so fast. I just had to eat a lot of food.
And that's been the focus this last off season. And now is, finding foods that are calorically dense, but very low in volume, because if I eat 1,000 grams of carbs a day off from clean food, I'm literally pregnant from noon on, and that's not good for my waistline. I have to use dirty, dense carbs.
It's funny you say that because toward the second half of my career, I kind of switched over to people always laughed because I always said I ate McDonald's, but that's a dense calorie food that my body was able to metabolize, but it didn't take up a lot of space. And I went to exactly what you said, but I think by then it was you're trying to do damage control. But I agree. I think if you have a super crazy metabolism, almost eating denser foods is probably a better solution, which is it's a good point to bring up because everyone's different. Some guys have slow metabolisms. They eat very little food. You look at Akeem Williams, the guy doesn't eat anything and he grows. And that's why his weight
it's such a double-edged sword, It's because it's like for Akeem, he looks at weights and looks at foods and starts to grow. I literally am more miserable in the off season than I am on prep because of how much I'm eating. But you flip the coin, and I don't know him well enough to know, but I'd venture a guess to say that he has to suffer pretty badly to get in shape and doesn't eat a lot. You know, so it's a double-edged sword, the fast and slow metabolisms for sure. Something I will say that I wanted to share with people regarding this that I did this off season that really made a big difference for me was use more fats. Fats have twice as many calories. We're talking about dense foods.
Yep.
I ate a lot of nut butters. I ate a lot of avocados. I ate a lot of fish oils. You know, I put a lot of mac oil on my food. It's a very easy way to getting a lot more calories in with no volume.
You're talking my talk now. You know, I've been saying that for a long time, and I discovered that also in the second half of my career, because when I first started, it was early 90s, and you know, everyone ate no fat, tons of carbs and protein, and I realized it was bloating the hell out of me and making me, and also fats are more effective also too when you're in the off season, especially in growing muscle, because your body requires essential fatty acids, and I think
it optimizes your hormone profile tremendously, having the essential fats. And honestly, in addition to what I just said, if you ask my dad, the biggest mistake he made during his career, it was keeping his dietary fats so low.
Yeah.
He'll tell you now he eats 5 times more fats than he did when he was competing, and without trying, he stays almost as lean. It's crazy.
That's awesome. You got to remind me. I'll send you some bottles of macadamia nut oil since I know you're a fan.
Cool. Yeah.
That's good. But let's take a look at the Olympia now. Obviously, the Olympia shaping up. Who knows what's going to happen now? Kai Green is looking to maybe enter the Olympia.
Dude, the rest of the year for bodybuilding, like if you're a bodybuilding fan, it is exciting.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great.
Tampa's exciting, Texas is exciting, the Arnold's exciting, and like it's all good. It's going to be fun.
You must. I mean, you're a fan of the sport. Obviously, you grew up in the household of a bodybuilder, and I have to imagine getting on an Olympia stage, especially if God forbid, you know, if the stars align and we see a Kai Green or maybe a Phil Heath. I mean, that obviously is, you know, something that as a fan, it must be great to be up there with those guys, and then to be able to beat some of the guys that you maybe were your heroes, the guys you looked up to, has to be a second feather in your cap. Like,
well, dude, to be honest with you, this last weekend, like I told them this. Rolly was my favorite bodybuilder coming up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like I was texting my training partner from high school the whole week, because like him and I would be in class on our computers in the back on bodybuilding.com forums in the IFBB Pro section. This is how long ago it was. Yeah. That forum was actually still active. And we were like showing pictures of Rolly to each other. And it's like I was such a big, when he was training with Oma, Grandma, watching all his videos. Like I was a huge Rolly fan, and to be able to, you know, get up on stage with him and, you know, stand next to him and compete with him, it was a huge honor. Like it's really cool. And the same thing with Dexter last year. You know, I was you know, because of our names, I was stacked right next to Dexter the whole weekend, and just to be on stage with like living legends like that, like it's as a fan of the sport, it's really cool. And I find myself struggling with it sometimes, because, you know, it's like, no, you're not a fucking fan, you're competing against them, but you know, it's like I am. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
How does your I know your daughter's 6 years old. We were talking about this before the show, and how does she see does she understand what you're doing now that daddy's, oh, there's a good picture from your Instagram.
So my favorite Brooklyn story to date happened at the Olympia last year.
Okay.
So Brooklyn's been to every single show I've done. And obviously before the Olympia last year, I have never lost a bodybuilding show.
Right.
So she was sitting front row with my parents. So
thinking
she could
you're
really
going to win,
see
of course.
everything.
Daddy's going to win, right?
And she saw, you know, like Rami and Phil and stuff. And like she looked to my parents and was like, they're bigger than daddy. So it was really funny how confused she was that I didn't win, but no, she really understands what's going on. You know, she you know, it was really like the most special thing I've ever been able to do thus far. You know, bringing her up on stage with me after Chicago. You know, she loves bodybuilding, and she's awesome. A little character, so it's fun to have her at the shows.
My son watches like the videos, like he'll see me watching like the Olympia or whatever, you know, critiquing shows. He'll be like, I think you should get big again.
Let me get on that. I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. Right?
Yeah, he knows that I don't look like that anymore. He sees the old pictures, but he knows I'm not the same guy anymore. But I said, I'm old. I said, these guys are young. This is a sport for the young. Well, I want to wish you the best of luck, obviously, at the Olympia. Congratulations on the huge win in Chicago. I mean, you really, I think, cemented the fact that you're the real deal. You are improving, and you're a guy that in a couple of years is going to be a very, very dangerous man on that Olympia stage. And I only wish you the best.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure talking with you, man.
And just give us a little, I wanted to ask you about the Labrada Pro line, because you have your own supplement line coming out as a part of the Labrada nutrition line. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we actually just launched about 2, maybe 3 months ago now. We launched with 3 products. We launched with our pump, our intra, and our hydro. Mm-hmm. The pump is a stim-free pump product. The Intra is obviously an intra workout product. It's got a full, matrix of performance enhancers, along with 20 grams of highly branched cyclodextrin, and then the Hydro is actually 100% hydrolyzed whey isolate. And to my knowledge, there are no other companies on the market doing a 100% hydrolyzed isolate. Most are hydrolyzed isolate with regular whey protein isolate.
Did you find it's hard to flavor that stuff? Because that was always the challenge.
So I know it's really bitter typically, and I know people are going to be like, "Yeah, I bet you're going to say this." But if you've ever tried any of our other proteins, which I'm assuming you have at this point, absolutely. We got them within 95% of our typical chocolate and vanilla. Everyone that's tried them loves them. Cool. I think the vanilla tastes like like melted ice cream, like melted vanilla ice cream. And to be honest with you, from like a digestion standpoint, I completely eliminated egg whites this prep because of that isolate. So I was doing 500 mLs of egg whites with my first and last meals, and then 2 whey meals. I switched to entirely whey for those meals. So I was eating 8 scoops of whey a day. And my body was handling it perfectly. Like no digestive
issues.
No
lactose in there, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, no lactose. It's completely lactose free. And do some research. People are always, oh, Whole Foods better. It's like, well, actually, if you want to go look at the bioavailability and the branch chain profile and everything, you might be surprised. But you don't want to argue with people on the internet too much. No. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's the products. Cool. The one thing I will say about them is that I set out to make products that I wanted to use. I didn't, want to, start here and then it's like, okay, well, we got to make this price point. So let's take this ingredient out and cut that one by half. I had a list. I gave the list to our formulator. Our formulator added, a couple ingredients and made suggestions. Sure. Nothing was eliminated. And because of that, we came out with a product that was too expensive to sell through our typical distributorship model. We had to transition to selling the Pro Series exclusively as a direct-to-consumer model to be able to offer it to our customers at a rate that, doesn't absolutely break the bank. But, what we ended up with, I make a joke about this, is we ended up with a Ferrari at like a Cadillac price, if that makes sense. Because people always say, "I want a Ferrari for a Honda Civic price." Well, it's not going to happen. We made a Ferrari for a Cadillac price. This is how I've joked about it.
No, and I tell people the same thing. I kind of did the same thing with my line. If you're going to sell, you have to sell more direct if you're going to do a higher end line, because the pricing points are just higher. You get what you pay for. I tell people this all the time. If you want to drive around in a Volkswagen or a Honda, then go ahead. But if you want to have the best stuff in your body, you're going to have to pay a little bit more money, and it's worth it. Think about the amount of money we waste on a daily basis. And so put it towards your body, put it towards your physique if that's something that's important to you. And I tell that to people.
Well, the people that are bitching about it being too expensive to eat cleanly or to buy their protein powder are the same ones that get the $6 cup of coffee on the way to work, have the $4 snack from the thing, and then get a $3 energy drink from the gas station on the way home.
You're 100% right. Very wise words from a true champion. Congratulations on the big win, Hunter.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right. And guys, that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With. I'm Dave Palumbo with Hunter Labrada. We'll see you next time. Thank you.